Bill, thank you for calling. Get it off your chest, sir.
Hey, Jesse, it's Daryl from Washington. Thanks for taking my call.
You said it's Phil?
Daryl?
Oh, Bill, yes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I had heard you comment about how the black family really started going downhill after the civil rights movement.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what you thought about welfare and the midnight raids and the man of the house laws when the Democrats would sneak into people's home in the middle of the night. And if you were black and they found even a sign of a man living in the house, they would kick you off the welfare. So it seems like the Democrats were paying black families to get rid of their dads.
Well,
I don't know what you think about that.
I do remember when they brought in the welfare to black people under Lyndon B. Johnson, and it was supported by Martin Luther King and all those guys. One of the requirements, one of the requirements for sure is that you could not have a man in the home, that the woman could not be married, she can't have a boyfriend living in the home, and the blacks agreed to do that. Not all, of course, but most. But that was supported by the so-called civil rights leaders as well. And so it's another reason that we should have never had a so-called civil rights movement, because it prevented blacks from getting married. It prevented them from thinking for themselves. It caused them to rely on the government. And so then they came up with this idea that the more babies you have, the more money you get. So there was no way that a man going to be in the house. And if a woman wanted more money, she was willing to have more babies. And it's just been downhill, controlled by the Democrats all the way.
It's like it's a setup. And the Democrats have been taking all of our money to incentivize one little section of our society, black people, to get rid of men, get rid of fathers, get rid of dads.
But
we don't need them.
I understand.
And now, 50 years later, black people are in hell.
Yeah, and I understand that happened, but I don't understand why black people don't, after all these years, it's been almost 70 years now, what is wrong with that? Well, I know that once you spoil someone, it's hard to overcome it, because that independent nature that God gave you inside will not develop unless you're out there working, unless you're doing it, right? And so I know that one of the reasons that black people have not overcome is because they just don't feel like it. And so they'll figure out all kinds of ways to get it for nothing. Thank you, Bill. But they'll figure out all kinds of ways to get it. That's why they came up with affirmative action after the welfare check. We want affirmative action. We black. Then they got affirmative action. Then now they're saying, we want reparation. We're black. Now they're saying, we want free health care. We want free education, because they just don't feel like working. And that's how it is when you raise your children. If you don't raise your children working from day one, that they're earning their way in some form or fashion, when they get older, as they get older, they figure out all kinds of ways not to work. And they're real clever in figured out ways not to work. And if you're a weak person, weak parents like the whites are with the blacks, they'll only use you and get worse. It's not crazy, because I know why it happened. That nature does not develop. God gave it and put it in us to be able to provide for ourselves when we become adults. But a lot of people don't, because it doesn't develop. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Before the civil rights movement, black people got married for the most part. They worked, they owned land. They were not complaining about white people. They were not acting like victims. They were not talking about the economy was bad for them. They were not begging for affirmative action or reparations or anything. They were making their own way. The civil rights movements, and they didn't have black leaders or anyone leading them. God led them. The civil rights movement started, and they lost all that. They don't do that anymore. Thank you.
Now, that's ridiculous.
No, it's not ridiculous.
That civil rights movement was a detriment.
It was a big mistake. It was awful. Black people have not returned since the civil rights movement happened. Black people have been begging. They want free affirmative action. They want welfare. They want reparations. The black men are looking to somebody else to take care of them and their children. Women are complaining. The black women are complaining. They hate the black man. It's a mess. It has never gotten better. Amazing. And don't forget to like, follow, tweet, subscribe, and share the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show, folks. We really appreciate it. We are at war. It is a spiritual battle for the soul of America. And it's going to take all of us to do it.